On to our next speaker. So our next speaker is one of my fellow board members at SWAN, Mel Regan, and the mother of the SWAN child. Mel's presenting to us today on government financial support and having successfully applied herself for her son to receive a disability pension. So something that is dear to all of you, I'm sure. So we've got a 20-minute presentation from Mel, and Mel will join us later for question and answers session. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name's Melanie Regan. I am a SWAN parent and I'm a member of the SWAN board. I'm going to talk to you today about government financial supports. My only qualification for this is that I have successfully applied for some of these supports. What I'm going to be talking to you about today, just briefly with each one, is early childhood early intervention, carer allowance, carer pension, carer adjustment payment, healthcare card, disability support pension, the NDIS and extras. Early childhood intervention is what is now known as early childhood early intervention. Previous programs such as Better Start or funding for children with autism have all been rolled into the NDIS now, and they make available funding for all early childhood early intervention. So whether that be in a program or individual services, you access this through the NDIS. Here's a photo of my own son at his early childhood intervention service. That lady there, her name was Chris Hannah. She was an OT, and like many of you, and maybe not all of you, we did absolutely love our early childhood intervention service. His name's Gabriel. This is how you access this kind of funding. So you go to the NDIS homepage and you click on a section which is on the homepage called Help for Children Under 7. It takes you through a really clear step-by-step process of applying for funding and actually applying for services. Next thing I'm going to talk to you about is the carer allowance. This is something that most people can get who are parents, carers, primary carers of any type for a child who has a disability, a severe illness, frail, and also if you're somebody that's caring for your aged parent in a caring capacity. A carer allowance is a supplement to your usual income, so it's not to replace your income, it's over and above that to give you some financial assistance. If you have more than one child with a disability, you can access the carer allowance for each of your children. So even if you have several children, each with their own disability, you can get the carer allowance for each of them. It is income tested. If you have a partner, your combined income needs to be less than $250,000 to access this. You claim this through Centrelink, which is now, as most of us are aware of, all done through the MyGov website. On top of your fortnightly payment, which is, I think, at the moment around about $130 a fortnight, you also have get an annual carer supplement of $600 and an annual child disability assistant payment of $1,000. Your carer allowance does not go towards your income in terms for tax purposes. You can use this in whatever capacity you wish. Here's another photo of that handsome boy, my son Gabriel. He's about 3 here, which was the age that he was when we decided that we would apply for and successfully obtain the carer allowance. Prior to that, I had some issues with accepting that I was a carer, something some of us might have been through. This is the form that is available on the Centrelink website that you would need to get filled out by a health professional when you're applying for your carer allowance. And it might be something that you would take to your paediatrician if you have one, but you don't necessarily have to have one. It can be any kind of doctor, your GP, a nurse, a physiotherapist, psychologist, occupational therapist, speech pathologist, or Aboriginal health worker if you live in a remote area. The carer pension is separate to and different to the carer allowance. This is an actual pension, so it's a substitute to an income. So this is something you can apply for if caring for your disabled child is something that means you are unable to maintain a job. You can apply for a carer pension. It's a little bit trickier to get, but certainly I do know people who have successfully applied for this. You need to submit income and asset tests. It is means tested, and you claim it online through Centrelink via the MyGov website, as with other claims. This is a form on the actual website that talks about the kind of forms that you would have to complete and some of the steps that you need to go to get the carer payment. So there's the income and assets tests, there's a needs assessment, the medical form, medical certificate, medical report, and various other tests that they require for this particular payment. There's another thing called the carer adjustment payment, and this is something again that you claim through Centrelink via MyGov, and it's a one-off payment. It's often when your child is first diagnosed that this kind of payment may come into play. It's a one-off payment to assist families following a catastrophic event where a child younger than 7 is diagnosed with a severe disability or a severe medical condition. The payment you can get is up to $10,000. But it's not very easy to get. It's something that you really have to jump through a few hoops to get, not to say don't go for it. You must be able to prove that this episode in your life has created significant financial hardship. But I do know somebody who has received some of this payment in the past. Healthcare cards are something that some of you may be familiar with and some of you may not. So if you get the carer allowance for your child, or the child in your care, that child will automatically get a healthcare card. If your child is older, like my son is now, and they receive the disability pension, they will also get a healthcare card. You don't get the healthcare card for yourself, you get it for the child. The card is issued automatically with these payments, and it just offers not too many things, and a few little things. It does give you cheaper medicines at the standard rate, and there are some other discounts that are available for your child and where they're advertised. Disability support pension is my most recent application that I have gone through. This is for a child within your care who's over 16. This is financial help for them, not for you. This is their own pension if they have a permanent physical, intellectual or psychiatric condition. In my son's case, he has an intellectual disability, so this is a permanent intellectual disability. There are income and asset tests, but they are for the person receiving the pension. So this was for my son to prove that he had no income and assets was quite straightforward. You claim through Centrelink, so everything's done online via the MyGov, but there are a few steps you need to take, and it's actually a fairly tricky process that you need to be prepared for. You need to set up a MyGov and Centrelink account for your child, so they need to have their own email address that you have to establish, and then you help them set up their own account. Part of doing this, you'll need to arrange to be your child's nominee so that legally you can undertake this process for them. There is a form available through Centrelink, and it's something that needs to be signed by the doctor. And you have to gather together a variety of documents to upload into the Centrelink website to prove that you meet the requirements. This is a screenshot of some of the documents that are required. So you may have medical history records or reports. You may have specialist medical reports, psychologist reports, including an IQ test report, medical imaging reports, physical exam reports, hospital or outpatient records, including details of operations, compensation and rehab reports, special school reports, physiotherapy or audiology reports, and then other documentation such as the child's tax file number and bank account details. I think for my son we submitted just his IQ report that he had assessed for entering into secondary school by a psychologist. We didn't need to go and get a separate medical report. That would suffice to prove his disability. But that we did need to go to our local doctor to get the nominee report and a separate medical report. So I've put here a slide with just a few extra tips. Proving ID can be really hard because even though this is on the Centrelink website for 16-year-olds with a disability, the types of ID they require are a driving license or a passport, something with photo ID, and so these were not things that my son has, so that was a little bit tricky. My recommendation to you and what I ended up doing was getting a photo ID from his school. Applying for a tax file number is a really straightforward process, just something you do through the post office, but there's a little tip here. Once your child turns 16, they have to sign for their own tax file number. And my son is unable to sign for himself, so before they turn 16, a parent is allowed to sign for them. So a friend of mine, actually Heather, put me onto this, and I went and applied for his tax file number whilst he was still 15, and it was a very simple, straightforward process to get his tax file number. After they turn 16, you have to go through some legal hurdles to be able to obtain a tax file number for your child. You need to legally be able to sign on their behalf. Other things you need to do is set up a separate bank account that's purely in your child's name. So if you already have a bank account set up where you manage your child's payments, for example, for the NDIS, but it's not necessarily in their name, this will not suffice for a disability support pension. You need to set up a separate account in their child's name. I did this through our own bank, which is just the ANZ, just a usual bank, and they were perfectly happy to link his account to my account online so that I can still manage it. The last thing I will say here is read the steps very carefully when applying for a pension like this. And I would say that with all of the steps, but this one is a really particularly long application process. Read the step-by-step instructions and have everything organised. You don't want to do what we did, which was have everything done, uploaded, and then there was one extra form and we had to go back to the doctor to get yet another form signed, which is not something that's very easy to do with our son at all. Ah, here's that handsome little tiny boy that you saw in his early intervention service, and at the age of about 3 when he got his carer allowance. This is my big grown-up handsome 16-year-old boy now who earns his own pension through the disability support pension. You can't believe they grow up. I'm not going to go into the NDIS because I'm not qualified, and that would be a whole presentation on its own. The NDIS I would hope that you've all heard of by now. This is the primary government way of obtaining funding to support your disabled child from being a child up through their entire adult life. The website is up there, ndis.gov.au. I've screenshot the home page there, and it is very self-explanatory when you go on there and apply. If any of you haven't already started your process with the NDIS, I suggest hopping on their website and having a read. There's a little bit of information here just about when your child is older, which mine will finish school in another 2.5 years. If they did want to happen to get a job, were interested, were capable, and you're willing to support them a little bit, there are some ways of getting assistance through the government. This one that I've screenshot here is Disability Employment Services. This is a service that's available through the federal government, and it's for things like helping you write a CV, helping you practice applying for jobs, helping you undertake job interviews, doing some practice, things like that. So very practical, good support. And then this is another part of the government, federal government support for people who are with a disability applying for a job. And this is a program called Job Access. There's been various iterations of this over the years. This is the current one. So as you can see on this slide, there's a section for people with a disability that you can click on if you are the person with a disability looking for job support. And there is a section for employers as well. So if you run your own business or are an employer within your business and you're looking to employ people who have a disability, which there are many people out there. I know at the hospital I work, we employ people with a disability. There is support available to you as an employer, and there is considerable support as well for you as a person with a disability. And these two websites are where you would go to access those. The last section I've got here are just a couple of little, or three little extras. The We Care Carers card, a companion card, and a parking permit. There is a carer card program which you can apply through this website on the Victoria State Government as a way to get some discounts on various things when you are a carer. There is the National Companion Card Scheme which you can apply this way. You do need to get forms signed by a medical professional, and this allows a companion to your child to access various services for free when they are taking your child out and about. And lastly, there are the accessible parking permits which are available to various people with a disability that allows them to park closer to a venue, or their carer to park closer to a venue and to have longer time in a car park. Thank you everybody for your attendance at the conference today and your interest, I hope, in my presentation, and hopefully it's been informative for you.
Well, thanks, Mel. That was a great presentation. Nothing more practical and pragmatic than hearing from someone who's been in a bureaucratic process before ourselves. And so great that you could share your experience and your wisdom with all of us. I think we've got a question or two in chat, and Heather will read the question out to you. And then when I wrap up, I'll just point a few things out to the audience that relate to your talk.
Sure. There was a mention, Mel, your son's at school but already on the pension. What age can you apply?
So you can get a disability support pension from the age of 16 onwards. So it's one of those things with Centrelink where you're not an adult, but you can get a pension like an adult can. So it's quite handy, really, although not that he has a great many needs to spend money, but when he goes out with a carer, for example, they take his card, and when he goes bowling or has his 3 trips a week to Bunnings to buy some tools, he can pay for it with his own money.
Fantastic. And there's another question about bank accounts. Does it need to solely be in the child's name, or is it possible to have a joint account with the child's name and parent's name?
So it does need to be solely in your child's name, but it's not as tricky as it sounds. I went to our local branch, the Preston branch of the ANZ, and I took Gabriel with me, which sometimes is helpful and sometimes isn't. And it was helpful in the way that they could very easily see that they understood he needed a bank account in his name, but very easily see that he wasn't going to be able to manage it. And there was no problem with some sort of, it's an online access only account. And because he's only 16, they've linked it directly to my account. So it's in his name, but it is linked to my account. So I can manage it online, and he gets a card where he can get money out of an ATM if he wanted to. And he can tap and go as a direct debit from that card. And don't get me wrong, he has absolutely no idea how to use an ATM, but his carer does, and I do. So if he ever needed to use money in that way, he could. And the money goes straight into his account and he can spend it how he wants to.
And thanks, Mel. And just a couple of quick comments from Natalie. She's saying that you can get discounted parking at the hospital if you have a healthcare card, and Centrelink also offers an essential medical equipment payment that you can receive as a recurring fee once a year. So just a couple of extra points from a health perspective for Centrelink support. Thanks.
Terrific. So sorry, Mel, and I'm sure that had we had more time, more people would be asking you more detailed questions, and you never know, you could turn it into a money-making venture. You'd make $5 a question or something. I don't know. But thank you very much for today and for the preparation and presentation that you provided us with. Thank you. Just to let people know that Heather will be putting some links into chat about what's available through SWAN and SWAN's fact sheets on the website. And as we said, keep an eye out, newly launched website with lots more information on it, easier to find. We've got lots of summaries of information on resources and supports that you can get, especially those navigating the various bureaucracies, including the NDIS.